Hi there, my name is Kat King. I am the creator, writer, director, producer of an upcoming indie sci-fi series called Glass Stars. It's based on a series of novellas that I started writing back in high school and actually began publishing during the pandemic in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I've just been pretty much picking up where I left off all along the way. If you're not familiar with this story, it is essentially a speculative fiction, science fiction series that asks the question, what if a woman with schizophrenia who created a digital world to escape her suffering became humanity's last hope for survival? And essentially it's queer, it's neurodivergent-led, it's diverse, very diverse. We have a fantastically diverse cast of talented actors. Currently, we are waiting on just a little bit of money to come through for a live augmented reality enabled table reading of the pilot script, which has garnered over 11 different awards and accolades since I started running it through the screenwriting screenplay festival circuit back in 2021. So yeah, we just need to raise some money for it. It's like completely independently produced. It will be a SAG-AFTRA project, new media project. And what you're looking at behind me is actually one of the first teasers that I ever designed for it. So let me actually step aside so you can kind of just get an idea of what we're working on here. I was going to say our Glass Dot Stars project Instagram is actually down right now. I took everything off of Meta because I really truly am a person of um, I don't know, personal integrity, and I feel like it's really a bad idea right now to be celebrating I say celebrating, but um, supporting and utilizing platforms that are owned by people who don't share my ethical or moral values. And that would be pretty much everything that's owned by Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, right? So I am an ethical transhumanist. I do believe in the ethical use and integration of technologies into our lives, but not without an equitable foundation and a strong ethical and moral framework to guide us. So that's something that we have to do together. We need to do that as a society, and we need to stop allowing just a very few very wealthy, the wealthiest people like Elon Musk, from monopolizing all of our resources and all of our major industries that most people rely on. So we're not really ready for the ubiquity of Neuralink when the man who has invented it, or at least financed the invention of it and research development of it, doesn't believe in equal rights and doesn't believe in empathy and doesn't support the idea of empathy. So Glass Stars really is kind of calling people like Elon Musk out. It presents sort of like the other side of the coin where the good intentioned, well intentioned people who are equitably minded take the reins and take control after a civil war breaks out and there's a nuclear catastrophe that leads to the construction of an underground or subterranean complex called the Spiral. And it's built by another technological sort of guru and AI researcher and scientist who, between her and her husband, ended up raising enough money to be able to finance the construction of this place. And it ended up being called the Spiral, and it's 100 plus levels. So this story started, I started for me. I published it, the first couple of chapters of the short story. They were published in 2006, 2007 on a place called Fiction Press. And then over time, I've just started really I let it alone and left it aside since I went into the military and went to college and became a teacher and everything. And now I'm just looking to try to really, really develop it more thoroughly. And so that's what I did with the book, and the book is available on Amazon right now, just and just in paperback and ebook for now until I can get the paperbacks, enough paperbacks ordered to then like move it all over to Gumroad. So I'm going to pay for the author copies, and then I'll sell them the physical copies through my Gumroad. But you can go to Gumroad now and get the ebook version. It's just $5.99 of Glass Stars, and to get you an idea of like what is all this about. And yeah, get to know the franchise, get to know the cast of characters and the stories and the premises and the core themes of the franchise. Because this podcast, The Hot Shop, is dedicated to the cast, the crew, everything that's behind the scenes, the entire creative process behind this franchise. So, yeah, so this first episode is really about the story, about the origin of the story itself, who I am, Catherine King, Cat King, whatever you want to call me, Cat is usually what people what people call me. But yeah, I am somebody who has lived with and struggled with and battled treatment-resistant schizophrenia, as well as complex PTSD and ADHD. my whole life. Actually, I've had schizophrenia. I'm 35 now, and I've had it more than over half of my adult life. So I didn't see any sci-fi that was really told from a person like me, our perspective or my perspective. And I love Asimov and I love Foundation, but I didn't really see, still did, just didn't see me or people like me reflected in sci-fi. And so I thought, other than to be a plot device or to be used as a plot device, so I thought I'd be the first one to maybe give it a shot and see how or if it resonated. And apparently it has, because I've received a lot of really good, strong feedback. And I've got 8 or 9 people who are committed to being a part of the cast for this series. So yeah, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the story. It's intended to be a streaming series online. I would love to sell it to Netflix or to Hulu or to another major streaming platform. But right now, actually, I'm probably more geared toward once we actually have a full first season. I plan the first season. Each season has about 6 episodes, 6 to 8 episodes. It's about 5 seasons planned for Glass Stars altogether. And it's going to take crowdfunding. It's going to take everyday people like you and me who want to see queer stories reflected in sci-fi. They want to see happy queer characters, or at least well-adjusted, accept self-accepting, fully self-actualized queer people, not just lesbians, not just gay people, but also people who identify as non-binary or asexual or trans. Those are all identities of which will be explored, addressed, featured heavily, will be centered, their voices. And of course, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, of course, are a huge component of this story, because in the end, it actually turns out that diversity, which is the main core theme of this, is the only way through. And it's the only way for humanity to advance and to really perpetuate itself, is by acknowledging that diversity is a necessity and that it's something to be celebrated. And that's basically what Glass Stars is saying. So yeah, Glass Stars is basically is saying a lot of things, a lot of different things, but it's primarily warning us about technology and whether or not people who have ethical principles should, or those who don't really have strong ethical frameworks, especially a belief in equality and equitable access to the same resources like Neuralink, etc. Yeah, that's kind of what it's about. It's asking a lot of different questions, and it's also saying quite a few things about our society, about the future, about who belongs in the future. And that's essentially the nuts and bolts of Glass Stars. So yeah, the main characters are Lily Rhodes. She actually is the one who creates this digital simulated recreation of Earth, and her background is that her mom was a prominent metaverse researcher, AI researcher, and scientist, and she worked together with a man called Henry Glass on this secret project. And at some point, she and her daughter Lily are ran off the road and shot and killed. Well, Lily's mom is killed, but Lily survives it, and then she grows up basically spending her life being selectively mute, mostly mute, and she ends up developing schizophrenia. She also has a traumatic brain injury from being shot, and the bullet just kind of grazed her temple. So she has a slight traumatic injury, but she ended up developing schizophrenia later on. So she decided to create this simulation, and inside the simulation, she experiences a temporary state of relief from her external auditory and visual hallucinations. So she starts to spend more time in it and more time in it. And then she meets Eleanor during an interview. Basically, Eleanor was a teacher who became was an AI researcher and teacher who was married to Henry Glass, and Henry died from cancer. And they created these biosynthetic clones that were clones of Eleanor. And one of them she actually carried biologically in her womb to and actually conceived and birthed her, and that becomes Sheeran. So Sheeran is the AI, the sentient AGI biosynthetic clone of Eleanor Glass, sort of a brainchild of Eleanor and Henry Glass, with the assistance of Lily's mom, kind of early on, but they were just sort of like professional colleagues. They weren't really close friends, but they did know and respect each other. So yeah, so basically Lily grows up to become an AR AI developer. She develops this simulation called Earth 2, And over time, it becomes affectionately nicknamed as the Shard. So that's where the Shard comes from. So if you see the Shard newsletter on LinkedIn, if you see the Shard Discord server, anything that says the Shard, that's all a reference to the E2 simulated Earth that people are tapping into or uploading into on a day-to-day basis inside the spiral. It's due to all of the political unrest and the nuclear catastrophe and civil war and everything. Essentially, most people are underground now, and there are very few of these underground structures. And so the spiral becomes a sanctuary for a lot of people, especially people who are queer, who are LGBTQIA plus, who are disabled, who belong to minority groups. Because of there is a lot to it. I don't want to give too much away, but I just want to give you a sense of like, yeah, the spiral it starts off as a sanctuary, and then over time it sort of becomes um not, I'll say it becomes not exactly dystopian, but yeah, dystopian in a way and imbalanced, despite the best efforts of Eleanor Glass and Lily Rhodes, who marry each other and carry on this mission of rescuing people from the surface and rescuing people and creating this safe haven and a refuge. But unbeknownst to them, there are people belonging to an organization called United Against Transhumanism who have infiltrated the spiral and have begun a series of attacks, cyber attacks, as well as like murders inside the spiral. And so, yeah, they're trying to figure out how do we stop this terrorist action from shutting down the shard because over time, fewer and fewer people are spending time in the actual spiral and more time inside the simulation in order to escape the stress of actually trying to work and live in a physical body in an underground environment for years and years and years at a time. So yeah, it's kind of like what would happen to us if we really did live underground, similar to Silo, but just a completely different tone and approach to it. Where this is not like Neuromancer. I haven't even read Neuromancer, but it's just not like cyberpunk. It's sort of post-cyberpunk because the story starts in sort of a dystopian cyberpunk realm, and then it evolves beyond that. It progresses and sort of, I don't say mutates, but it does evolve beyond a cyberpunk dystopian story premise to more of a philosophical science fiction, more Asimovian, more like that type of speculative fiction. So that's Glass Stars in a nutshell in terms of the story and the main characters, Lily and Eleanor, and Sheeran is the sentient AGI who sort of runs everything at this point in the spiral. And then they also created a bunch of other clones. They also had a son together. His name is Faraday, and Faraday Glass is a really prominent figure on Mars. He is sort of a state or colonial representative for the Arcadia colony on Mars, which was founded by a technate billionaire, a la Elon Musk, but has since sort of broken off and sort of this guy is like kind of taking over everything, but he's controlling everything from Mars, and there's not a lot of power in the government on Earth. So there's a pull toward having more representation. So Faraday becomes sort of like this opposition leader, very similar to Navalny, Alexei Navalny. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of conflict there. Obviously, as you can imagine, he's sort of in a secret kind of relationship with his adopted sister, Ava. And then Ava is a Civil War soldier spy whose sister Naomi runs the security to basically all of the security for the spiral as well as Futura. The E2 company, the company that runs E2 is called Futura, and that's Lily's company. So Naomi is really in charge of cybersecurity for the shard, but she's also in charge but Ava's in charge more of the shard, and Naomi is more in charge of like the physical safety of the people in the spiral. The deepest level of the spiral, there are 100 plus levels in the spiral, and it's sort of like the stratified, gentrified, structure where the people on the top side, close to the surface, are the ones who spend the most time in the shard, and also they have the most privileges and access. Everything uses energy or something called flux units or flux. And that's a type of like a cryptocurrency, but it's actually energy that's being transferred to sustain the person's access into the server inside the mainframe. So it's limited, it's not unlimited. They do approach stable fusion during over the course of glass stars, and so that fusion technology becomes integrated, but UAT starts attacking the infrastructure and the energy infrastructure. So there are continuous rolling blackouts that affect the shard and its latency and its stability over time. And it is beginning to sort of deteriorate. So by the time we meet the characters in Glass Stars where they are, the shard is undergoing a series, a constant, near constant blackouts, near constant glitches, and it's starting to come apart. And there's a great amount of unrest and uncertainty within the spiral because so many people are now living inside these stasis pods, which allow them to access the shard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that requires a great amount of energy. So that fact is me forcing people out of their pods and to try to work, work for it and earn time back in the shard. And over time, that more and more people kind of begin sort of like sinking to the bottom of the spiral structure and into what we call the deep, and where a lot of people ended up with untreated psychosis. And so it's a really unsafe place, but there's a lot of sort of like a black market and that's very dystopian and cyberpunk kind of aspect of Glass Stars, especially in the first season. It does feel similar to Altered Carbon, but it doesn't have the hard sci-fi vibe. It's more of a Asimovian tone, even maybe Star Trek or Roddenberry-esque. So yeah, that's a little bit more about the story. I don't want to give too much away, but ultimately it all will come to a head in the pilot with a major attack that is being planned by UAT and its mole, somebody who works inside the spiral and works for the shards. So there's lots to cover, lots of ground to cover. But that gives you a little bit about me, who I am, how this whole story came to be, this whole property, this intellectual property known as Glass Stars came about, and a little bit about the plot, the premise, the themes, the major characters and players, and yeah, it's really exciting. I hope that you'll check out the book. It's available now. If you want it on paperback, you can grab it on Amazon. And if you want to follow up with it and you want a little bit of a head start on what might be coming forward in future seasons as well, you want to definitely read Rebirth and Extra P. Those make up the core Glass Stars trilogy, from which a bunch of other supplementals and other trilogies will be a spun-off prequel trilogy, and then a post Extra P trilogy will also give you more insight into the next sort of universe of characters, as it were. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview. If you have any questions, if you want to be involved in the project, we would always welcome people who are open to creating something that's new and a little bit groundbreaking, a little bit different, and definitely risky. We do want to sell the series to Reverie because they are an LGBTQIA centered streaming platform, and they've been really successful at creating followings and helping people like me to establish followings. So we really need to get this whole project shot and produced and then polished and ready to go for distribution. But until then, if we can't get onto a streaming platform, we'll definitely put the pilot up on our YouTube. That'll be here on my Cat King here, but it'll also be I'll put it up here on the Hot Shop. I'll put it up on Cat King here. I'll put it up on Cathexis Films. All three of our channels will have the pilot on them so that people can access it from a variety of different places. But the Hot Shop is really the podcast where we're focusing primarily on the behind the scenes, the actual writing of the show, the cast members, profiling the cast members and the crew, and giving you a lot more insight as to what's taking to make this series. I think the most exciting thing about the series is that we really want it to be as interactive as possible. I want to infuse the series with as many augmented reality features as possible. And that's partly the reason why I'm hosting Glass Stars Live in January 2026, is to invite folks from all over to come and experience the pilot script in a more enhanced, immersive way to give you a better sense of what somebody like Lily Rhodes experiences as somebody who lives with schizophrenia. It's designed to sort of play two roles there, which is, of course, to expose people to the story and the characters and the world of Glass Stars. But more than that, underlying that is a desire for people to gain a deeper sense of empathy. The purpose of the Glass Stars Live event is really to have people walk through a space that is fraught with, that is sort of essentially, I want to say, we're creating like a walkthrough. I'm creating a walkthrough experience, sort of like the Walking Dead experience at Universal Studios, where when you enter the space and you come to your seat, you're going to experience a wide variety of simulations such as auditory and visual hallucinations or simulated auditory and visual hallucinations. And then there'll be a talk back at the end of the table reading, a Q&A session. I'll probably do a little TED style talk at the beginning, whatever, to introduce the whole show. And then we'll have the table reading. Where we'll have a lot of augmented reality features. So we'll have floating text, floating images, things like that. You'll see a lot of sort of holograms, and all things that you can scan and learn more. And you'll see storyboard artwork. You'll see scripts. You'll see, stories from the cast and crew and all of that. And then, of course, you'll have an opportunity to like declare a side, declare a faction. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And of course, there'll be some light beverage and snacks available. And if you can't make it in person to Seattle next year for this event, that don't even stress because we're going to be streaming it live from Seattle Center on our YouTube channel. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to like, and it's cheaper to just stream it anyway. We're only asking what the absolute minimum is to pay for this event. We're not even asking for money for the pilot itself because we really just want to start building a community around the script, around the book, around the IP altogether. Once we have a community around that, then we feel like we'll have buy-in for people to be like, okay, sure, I'll pitch in for the production of a pilot based on this award-winning, this award-winning script. Yeah, of course. So just winning awards isn't enough. You need to have people who believe in the project, who believe in its salability. And right now, it's like, I don't really need to sell this to anybody. I really just make it myself, but still takes money. So unfortunately, for the foreseeable future, money still makes the world go round, and we're all still beholden to the system. So until then, it is what it is. That's really it for this episode. This concludes the Hot Shop episode 1, an introduction to Cat King, the story, the plot, and premise, and as well the major characters in the cast. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll see you at the next one, which will be our next episode will be really the first profile for our cast members. And I was gonna go like in order from like the leads, but it really is an ensemble. Even though Lillian, Eleanor, and Sharon sort of are the vehicle around which the most of the plot operates, there's still very much an ensemble, and there is space and room for everybody that you see on camera to have a more developed backstory and arc as the franchise progresses, especially as season 1 progresses. Even you're going to see a lot of camera FaceTime on people who aren't considered like the leads, which is why I was like, no, forget about it. I'm just going to go on based on people's availability, and whoever's available, I'll go ahead and I'll I'll just publish their interview in order of who I interview first, right? So I may not start with Maeve, I may not start with Zoe because they may not be available. But if Brooke is available, for example, who plays Bex, then I would definitely pull her in first. If Philip is available now, then I'll bring him in. He plays Charlie Akins. So I'll just bring them in. So there's no particular order to it. So I hope that everybody understands that I'm not trying to like, I don't know, create a ranking system or make anybody feel less than or more important than others. Can't think of anything else I want to say for this opening episode, but that's really it for now. I wanted to go ahead and show you the one of our latest teasers that we have. Also here, I'm gonna go ahead and share. So I always share, the kind of stuff that I'm promoting. So if you want to see the books that I have on sale at Amazon, if you are like, hey, look, I'll still buy your book and paperback on Amazon. Like you're gonna get I get 70% of the royalties from what I sell on Amazon. So, but I haven't really gotten much money. Like I haven't sold anything yet because I kind of just started putting everything up here on Amazon. I'm still a little new to all of this. But you can see there's a wide variety. Now, the books that you want to focus on for the Glass Stars is Glass Stars, and then of course Rebirth, um, and Extra P when it drops, but definitely want to check out Glass Stars. Here is the page. We're ready to buy it. You can see it's currently $15 in paperback, and then I have it. If you have Kindle, then you can get it. You can read it for free. And if you want the ebook version of it for your personal records or your copy of it, I would go to my Gumroad. That's catking.gumroad.com. And you can see here there's upcoming releases, available novels. So if you scroll down, you'll see this huge, man, they're so big. But here's the big This is actually a bundle. It'll save you a couple of bucks if you buy both Glass Stars and Rebirth together. And why wouldn't you want to get them both? They're all part of the same universe. You'd want to, it's like the sequel. Why wouldn't you want to pick up a copy of the sequel while you're at it, right? This two for bundle is just two for 9.99. So just covering the cost of like putting it together and help keep the link tree going because it's 10 bucks a month for link tree. It's, it costs money to keep some of these things going. Like Canva costs 30 bucks a month. So I just need enough money to like keep my landing pages and my anything that I pay for, like Linktree and Canva. Pretty much that's it. Oh, and ChatGPT because I use it for organizing my thoughts. Um, like I said, I've had schizophrenia for over almost 15 years, over half my life, my adult life, and it's been really a struggle. So I'm just trying to find ways of bringing my message out to people and then allowing people to receive that message and respond to it, and then we open a dialogue, and that's what this is about, just building community and reducing stigma and fighting stereotypes, myth busting essentially. And Last Stars really hopes to bring and shed a light on to the lived experience of people like me who battle treatment resistant schizophrenia every day, but whose stories and voices go unheard because either they lack the insight to be able to communicate and articulate their thoughts and feelings clearly, or they don't have the support in the first place and they just give up on themselves. Support is everything. Support is what makes the difference between somebody like me who has a roof over her head and can work and people you see in the street who are talking to walls and punching at, no one in particular. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but I just want to really quickly show you one of our teasers. I want to really start kind of from the beginning. This was the very first um, trailer that I made, or a screenplay. It's called a screenplay trailer. Start over real quick. Okay, so you can kind of get a sense of the the tone. I'll go ahead and there we go. Okay. All right. So that gives you a sense of the tone of it. And that was like the very first one. Now I created this, just so you know, like the part of this is like democratizing filmmaking resources. Of course, I have Final Cut Pro and I have all that fancy software and everything, which I paid a lot of money for. And I'm even working on an iMac right now. In fact, I'm using my iMac to record this episode. But I just don't love it. I don't love that we have to pay all that money for all that kind of fancy software when 90% of the time I'm actually editing on my phone now. My phone is my primary like tool. It's my camera, it's my editing software is all on it. I use Adobe Aero on my phone. Doesn't even, I don't think there is a desktop version of Adobe Aero for AR, for creating AR assets and what else you want to call it, I guess. Just AR like stuff, AR media. AR experiences or whatever you want to call them. But you're basically just using it to actually map scan and then like anchor your assets, which you pre-make in some other software program. So I use Canva to really make this. This one that you see behind me, like what I just showed you right now, I actually made all of that in Canva. I found the footage in Canva. Of course, I use Colo Pro font. If you use Canva a lot, you recognize Colo Pro. It's a really awesome font. I love it. So yeah, it's you can and I we can do this together. We can create amazing things with almost zero money. All I did was what I found is that I don't have to spend a lot of money. I can buy 1 month access to something and then spend a month just like hunkering down and like getting a lot done using that. So that if I don't have any money, more money at the end of the month for the next month's worth of access to that app, like Canva or Linktree or ChatGPT or whatever it might be, I will take full advantage of when I do have $20 or when I do have $30, I'll drop it in there and then I'll spend those 30 days being as productive as I can, trying to get everything done. So that's where ADHD kind of comes in handy is when I'm in hyper focus mode is when things actually get done. So hyper focus has kind of a little bit become a superpower. I hate to say that it's a superpower because my hyper focus can actually make it really difficult for people to control me, could communicate with me because I'm so hyper focused and I get really irritable when I get interrupted because I'm like in the zone, deep work zone. So yeah. This was just like a screenplay trailer. So a screenplay trailer is just a visual, basically tone setting kind of proof of mini proof of concept that says here's what the visual tone of the screenplay is supposed to, feel like. Now I also want to show you one of our more recent um one of our more recent teasers. Let me see if I can find the one. Oh, here we go. So now you're starting to see these are old, these are the opening titles, but I'm not sure if they're updated to include Zoe because Zoe, we had a different actress. Her name is Sunny Talone, and she is awesome. We cast her in the role of Lily, but she unfortunately had to step away from the project because she became a new mom. And you know what? That's amazing. It was amazing. We loved just being able to congratulate her. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and update this because we actually do have Zoe Rose Kersey. I wanted to show you kind of who these folks are. So here are, but first let's watch I just wanted to show okay, so this is the old one. So I've since updated this. So I'm going to actually go ahead and upload the new one. There you go. Kind of get a sense of the, go ahead and actually open it back up because I want to show you. Save that. Oh, I forgot to save it. Oh, well, it's okay. All right, let's go show you just a few more teasers that we've been working on. And but here, let me quickly show you the glass stars, some of the concept art that we've been working on. I also wanted to show you this. Okay, so you can see a little bit more of um, sort of the basics of the theme. I'll go back to channel content, and then I wanted to show you a few more. Because the whole point of the hot shop, and the name of this whole thing is Glass Stars. I worked at Chile Garden Glass in Seattle, or I worked for Chile Garden Glass as a safety officer. And over the time that I spent at the Space Needle and Chile Garden Glass, I had the opportunity to watch a lot of glass blowing demonstrations and learn a lot about glass. And you'll be really surprised at how strong, sturdy, and tough glass can be. So glass plays a lot of different roles here. The word glass means so many different things. Obviously, it's Eleanor Glass and Henry Glass's last name, but it also is the shard. The shard is a glass structure and monument that houses all of the memory engrams of people who have died over the years. And as well, it holds the avatars who are post-human, who have jettisoned their bodies and now live in the shard as sort of light matter, basically. Essentially, they're light matter or holographic light matter, and it's really cool, kind of a cool concept, and they are able to actually um, project out into across the stars and sort of travel the stars through remote viewing this way. And so Psyche is actually this considered by many within the GSU to be a an afterlife life state, like a heaven, basically very similar to the I guess the Nexus in Star Trek, but it's real. It's real. It's not like an inauthentic place. It's not like an illusion or illusory place. It's real, and many people in the spiral believe it to be like the representative of the next stage of human evolution. And so there's a lot of controversy around that because a lot of people who, it's like for example, Neil Chandler and his wife Phaedra, they are devout Christians, and Neil fought in the Civil War, and he's a cyborg, and he actually gave up all of his implants and his upgrades and his enhancements so that he could focus on being a devout Christian and start a congregation on the surface outside of the dome. And then eventually Eleanor offered for him to move inside the dome once it was actually erected and stable. Then she offered the congregation the chance to come and at least set up within the boundaries of the dome zone on the surface, but he refused. And so, yep. So Neil and his wife are super, super. They represent that faith based element. It derived from my family's experience. My parents' religious beliefs are Pentecostal primarily, and so they believe in speaking in tongues and all of that. So Neil and Phaedra represent that sort of element of my lived experience, my schema that I decided to endow in this because it's really important. Religion and technology, we can't get away from it. It's inextricably like in conflict with with each other, and Glasshouse is going it just has to be there. We can't leave religion out of these conversations. That's why Glass Stars isn't Star Trek. That's why it's not, because even though Deep Space Nine it definitely addressed religion and all of that. In this case, like we really are trying to reflect back on our current society. So it really has to be, these things have to be said. These scenes have to be shown. We need to have these conversations vicariously through the characters in Glass Stars so that we can have those conversations at home and in and around our peers who may not agree with us on what the future should look like. Okay, last one I wanted to show, a couple more. Um, these are only a few seconds long, so. Okay. Getting a couple of, so you can get a kind of an idea of what's going on here. I'll kind of go over it again for you, just since you probably haven't read the pilot script, right? I mean, I haven't published the pilot script. It's protected, it's registered, but I still haven't shared it with very many people. I mean, not publicly. I've sent it to people privately in email and things like that, but I'm just kind of keeping the script out of any potentially plagiaristic hands. So here we're looking at the opening scene, the battle for the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol in 2099, which is how the pilot script opens. And then you can see we actually have some scenes that I used. So I used Pica to generate this. I generate each of these clips and then I put them together. Like you can see the Pica watermark there. And back here, you can actually see that's Naomi, or presumably could be Naomi in the first concept. I hadn't thoroughly fleshed out the background for Naomi and Ava yet. Yeah. Okay. One more. Okay. And then I wanted to show one last one. I keep saying that, but okay. Okay, so you can see that I have definitely um, done some work to try to create a certain type of tone or feeling and emotion with this, and I hope that it's reading. I hope that it's resonating, and if not, I would love for you to contact me, get in touch, and help me. But anyway, yeah. So just to wrap this episode up, I want to invite you to the next episode, which is will be our first episode where I interview one of our esteemed cast members. I'm really hoping it'll be probably either Brooke or Philip, and we'll get into the deep dive about like their role, their character, why they're on the project, what drew them to the project in the first place, and what they're really hoping that will come from it as well. So thanks for being with me on this episode of The Hot Shop. I'm Kat King, and I will see you soon at the next one. Bye, everybody.